All right, we're recording. So, anybody have first thoughts about the video?
Yeah, that I just wanted to say right off the bat that therapist, the professional guy was amazing. He was just he was just on it. He knew how to get in there and really talk to this family.
Mm,
He I think he hit pretty much all the points in this chapter.
mm. I liked how he started because I think when you go for therapy, it's very nerve-wracking. You never know what to expect. But he just made it so easy and it just kind of went so well because I think he was able to establish that trust with the family and that made it very easy at the beginning. So he did really good. I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, I think he did a good job of most therapists, which is he's talking a lot, but he's getting them to say stuff they probably
Mm,
never said before, even though it's all simple stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing I noticed. He did at first I was thinking like, oh yeah, he is talking a lot, but I feel like it wasn't a wasted effort or
Mm,
excessive. He did it and it was necessary for this family because I don't think they were going to say anything if it was just you know, a very shallow therapy session.
I think also what I liked about him was how he was able to rephrase certain things. I think there was a point where the husband said, "Oh yeah, my wife is always crazy," but then he used another word just to rephrase it to share feelings. It's almost like the family says this and then he brings it. So you're saying what I'm getting. How he was able to say that, I think that helped them also understand what they're going through as he explained it further. So I think he did that very well. So
Sorry, I'm typing while we're talking the things that we're saying.
Oh, it's okay.
um, yeah, so I think Lainey, you put up he rephrased things from what they said, and I thought that was one of the things I put down too, was that when they were saying something, he would change it around to put the viewpoint of what the other person's trying to think of.
mm,
So I think it was Jimmy was the son, was they don't understand and they think I'm doing all these bad things, and he's like, so you aren't doing these bad things, and he's like, yeah. And so I think
mm.
he did a good job of making everything come out the way the people wanted it to, instead of maybe not how it has been communicated in the past.
Mm, mm, mm. I like that.
Yeah, he it was pretty obvious that I mean this family had a really hard time communicating,
Mm,
and he did a great job at facilitating, kind of like you two mentioned, what they were saying or doing and translating that into what they were actually feeling. And I think that made all of them realize, like, wow, I didn't know that, because I guess they were just too focused on what they were doing to each other or doing for themselves, and not what's behind that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because I think we could all relate how would act a certain way because it's how we feel, or to just to mask how we feel. Like let's say I'm angry at my son, like the wife, I mean the mother, but in all essence she's scared. She's worried. And that came out in a different way. And he was able to rephrase in such a way that they would see that, hey, your mom acts the way she does, but that's initially underneath that is because she cares about you. Were they actors or was it just me? Because I look at the dad and the dad looked young.
I I don't know, but it was if it was if it was role playing, it was really good.
It was really good. I thought so.
Yeah,
um,
I'm just reading through it real quick. It says, uh, I don't know. It doesn't really tell you if they were actors or not.
yeah.
I know they said that it wasn't scripted or something. They just kind of went with the flow.
Yeah.
Mm.
So then, did any of you, after watching the video, read through the transcript as well?
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to read through the transcript.
Okay. So
I just
something
watched the video.
something I missed while reading the transcript, because I didn't have audio, so I was reading while they were just mouthing. One of the things I noticed that I didn't catch in the video that was on the text was that at one point the mom and dad start holding hands, and then when they start talking kind of like bad about each other, they stop holding hands.
Oh.
Oh wow.
So that was one of the things I didn't pick up on while watching the video, but as I was reading it, I saw that, and I went back and saw that at the same time. So
Oh wow.
it was just like one of those nonverbal things that gets picked up because I was reading it, not because I was looking at the video.
Well,
crazy.
I kind of had a breeze through of some of the stuff that I read through some of the work, the not the work, but the chapter, or some of the things that they did that I thought they saw. I mean, I was just like a few minutes, but some of the things that I think that they did very well, or the counselor did well, is like, let's start from the beginning. For instance, like making meaning of adversity. I think he started off by asking a question: what brought you here? And really understanding what's going on and getting everybody's perspective, you know. I think that was a really good way of asking questions. What do you think? What do you think? Just to have an understanding why they're here, what happened. I thought that was a really good way of, and I like also how he said, how did he say? No particular order, whenever you're free. As opposed to mom, you start, dad, you start, rather when you're comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he did a really good job at jumping into that too, by even with the smallest things, like with Jimmy, he, like right off the bat, he admitted, he just said like, yeah, Jimmy, you're in an awkward time in your life. You know, this was later in the video, but he was like, you're trying to figure out things between being a child and an adult. And that's making meaning of what is going on. And then another little thing I noticed was when he mentioned that, oh, wow, this is interesting. You know, the women are willing to talk and the men aren't. And then he brought in a statistic. And so he tried to make it like, he tried to normalize it.
I like that.
Made it seem less of a, I think he was trying to make it look less like a problem, more like a, you know, it's just part of life.
It's just how, and also helping us understand as women, that's how they're programmed to be, that they are more likely to be this and men are. And I think that really helps you understand, okay, I'm just not losing, it's just who I am. I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the points that I thought was big was how like it was a positive outlook part of it, where Matt, like you feel like Maddie's tattling on her brother, where he's like he's doing all these bad things, and then what it really was is the therapist turns it around and says, well, it's not that you're tattling, it's that you care about your brother, right? And she's like, yeah. And you can kind of tell Jimmy's like, oh, okay, again, I'm starting to understand that maybe people aren't just being mean to me because they're being mean to me, it's because they actually do maybe care.
Yeah.
I like that. And also, you know, he wasn't biased. It wasn't like, oh, he's favoring Jimmy or anybody, but he was really looking at them individual and looking at what they're going through and how they might be experiencing. It's almost as if he was allowing us to see what Jimmy's going through, allowing us to see what the sister or the mother, that yes, it might come across like this person's like this, but hey, maybe that's her just feeling sad, or she feels bad that you guys don't communicate as much as you used to. I think that allowed people to feel that, okay, fine, you know, I'm at fault too.
You know, I think that really helped them because, you know, with all that, he was able to, I mean, despite their opinions and emotions, all the feelings they had, despite all of that, he was still able to connect them to each other through painting a bigger picture for them, because they couldn't do it themselves, because they couldn't communicate.
I like that. It's true.
Well, I think, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lonnie.
I was just moving on to the next one, which is just flexibility. I think. I don't know. Was there a third one? I can't remember the third one. I think there's one that he missed. I'm not sure. The one about spirituality, but I'm not sure, because he was saying something about, as parents, we can get help elsewhere. Did you hear that? So I don't know if he meant that as spirituality, that, because I think there was one that talked about being able to get help spiritual from religious leaders. Like, let's say when we go to church, young women, young men. So I don't know if he mentioned it, or maybe I wasn't listening correctly in what he said about that and what the parents said.
I think it was very brief, but he did mention it. I have the paper right here, but yeah, he did mention like he feels like parents get this extra help for their kid. And in the chapter, it says that these values and practices provide meaning and purpose beyond the family's immediate plight. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like church, but it's kind of like a more of an abstract concept.
Yes.
It's not something concrete that's in front of them. I think that's what it means by transcendence and spirituality.
So I thought that was something that he brought out, that maybe, but I don't know what the parents' response was.
They were just nodding.
Yeah. There was another one that talked about flexibility. How I think, especially at the end, the family was able to be more flexible, where he was talking about the mother and the father, hey, go on a date, or reconnect. They're not too rigid, that they're allowing new options in this new, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm trying to put my words together. They are flexible, that, hey, this is a new challenge. What can we do better? Hey, maybe we should go on a date. Maybe these two can hang out. They're flexible to solutions and things that are happening right now. That makes sense.
Well, I thought too that it showed the flexibility of like the therapist too, to be like, the problem is Jimmy. We all know that, but maybe the solution isn't fixing Jimmy. Maybe it's fixing the way the parents communicate, fixing how they show their love and compassion for each other. I thought that that's what he's trying to show them, like, hey, it's not just because there's a problem, the solution isn't necessarily fixing that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go on, Justin.
No, I was just gonna agree to what Charles said about it. It's more of it was just better for them to fix the whole family system in general than just try to
one person.
Yeah, to fix Jimmy, because then everyone had their own issues, and I think he did a great job at helping them voice that, or voicing it for them. And then that just puts everything on the table, and now all they have to do is just rearrange it and make it work.
Yeah, I like that. That it was about Jimmy, but initially it all came out how we're communicating about certain things, how there's constant arguing because of that person. That yes, you are not contributing, you're not the one who's out late at night, but the way you're reacting, that you are also playing a role in it. I like the way they did that. What's the next one? Connectedness. Is it connected? Connectedness?
Oh yeah, connectedness.
You mentioned something, Charles, about hey, did you see how he changed? Do you think that's a thing where first the father was on the other side and the daughter moved, and then do you think that enhances connecting? Because the son was way on the other side and later he was there. Do you think that maybe that also helped them to communicate or connect to him more sitting next to him? Do you think that maybe might have played a...
I thought
that was very interesting.
That's a pretty good point, because I noticed that too, that he moves the father and the daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then because if you go through the whole thing, he's like, the father and the son really could care less about what's going on. Most of it, like that's what they kind of feel like. But then he's like, obviously the real problem is between the mom, the daughter, and the son. So he moves the people that have the problem closer together, because now they actually have to deal with each other right there.
Yes.
It's not a shouting match across the parents. It's let's put the people together that actually need to work more, and put the people who need to work less away from each other.
That's interesting, because even from the beginning and right off the bat, and personally speaking, I mean, you're probably more inclined to sit by people you agree with or feel comfortable with because of whatever it is. In this situation, you saw the daughter sit with the mother and the son, Jimmy, sit with the dad, because the dad was just like, I don't really mind what's going on.
So I like that, and I thought that was very interesting. I think it might enhance connect having to see that person close to you. You feel you might be able to be more connected to them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I also think that he did well with connecting by helping them say how they feel. Like, let's say with a sister, like, hey, the reason why she's doing that is because she really cares. Do you care? Yeah, I care about it. And when I feel like somebody cares for me, I feel like, oh, connected. And I think he has a way of linking that. Just, yes, there is that, but under that, there's all these deep feelings that this person is feeling, and you need to be able to experience or see that. So I like how he did that.
No, he did a great job.
For connectedness, I think I put so they at first the parents are basically yelling at him when he comes home at night, and so he doesn't like that. And then um so once he talks about that and they start talking about why they're doing it, he realizes that they do care, but they just don't show it the way he wants them to. And I think every kid goes through that of, I know I'm not doing the right thing, but why are you guys yelling at me like I'm an adult? Like I don't need to listen to you. And so he does it. The therapist does a good job of bringing those feelings out and making sure everyone's heard. Like, hey, yeah, he is an adult. He's 18, but yeah, you are also with your parents, and you have to live by the rules that are set. You can't just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay, Baba. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, my son is around. Please excuse me for that.
Okay.
Yeah. What about the other one, mobilizing social and economic resources? I was looking at it and reading just, as I've mentioned, I probably spent 30 minutes just glancing through this chapter. But I think one thing that they might have mentioned about that I thought was very interesting was the father, the therapist was talking about. Have you talked to him about job options? Have you talked to him about, what he can look for and maybe, and they said, yeah, I speak to him in the car. So maybe you guys could talk. That would be something that maybe, would help. So I thought that is nice as economic resources, seeing what's available as opposed to always hanging out with your friends. Maybe it's because you don't know what's available and talking to your child about it might be helpful. That makes sense.
No, that actually brings up a good point because at our work, we have some people that you can't move up unless you get a degree, but there is some jobs available that give you a bump in pay. And there's been someone at our site that's been here for like 10 years and he's never moved up. And then now they've just told him about the options and he's like, I could have moved up 5 years ago and maybe I wouldn't have been as grumpy when I come in because I'd be making more money. So I kind of think of it like that because we don't take the time to actually discuss more and to actually talk to people, they kind of become grumpy because they actually don't know what they're missing.
Yes.
And then when they find out, they're like, well, I could have been doing that a few years ago. Maybe I wouldn't have been, maybe I wouldn't be up till 3 o'clock in the morning because I have a job that keeps me out till midnight and I just want to come home and sleep. And then the parents will then feel better because they know where their kid's at now. He's at work, then he comes home, and then maybe before work he goes out and parties or whatever he does. So it kind of helps them to know, okay, our son's actually being responsible too.
Yeah, I like that. That's great. Going through them. Okay, let's move to the next one. Clear information. I wrote down under this relate or rather restate or rephrase what you're saying. Because I feel like there was a lot of miscommunication, and I like how the therapist was able to say, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me, because if I keep going, it means I'm right, or like, oh no, I meant this. Just to clarify information, just to know that whatever is being spoken here, it is okay with you, it is okay with me, and I'm saying I'm on the right track. I like how he did that. I liked how he clarified feelings. He made connections. Say, do you think that maybe that's how your sister connecting those feelings and helping understand, what's going on and sharing feelings. I think sharing feelings in therapy is very important because I think we see the underlying barrier why this person acts the way we do. And I think he was very, very well at doing that and helping them understand the reason why they act this way is because they feel that way. It might not come across that way, but that's how they feel initially. And that, I think, once you understand, that's why that information is okay, fine. I think there was more empathy from the son. So, oh, okay, now I know why my mom is acting that way.
I colored two babies.
Good job, Baba. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was great that they were able to express
Yeah,
how they really felt, especially how worried the mom and the daughter were, and through that they were even able to have Jimmy open up, because Jimmy really didn't want to open up until maybe this moment in the video. He was pretty stiff and closed up until this moment where he actually admitted that he actually cared. So I think it was nice that I think everything else before this kind of built up to this moment, and I think it just proves that everything besides this is necessary.
Well, I thought was good too is that he did, like, I mean, we've all been in situations where we've heard a conversation and then we just like take an answer and then we're like, okay, thanks for the answer, but he keeps digging for more and more stuff. He just doesn't take the first answer, which I think is a big deal, because I think he's probably been a professional for so long that he knows when people are giving him the right answer or when they're just giving him the answer so they can stop talking. Most people aren't comfortable with telling their whole life story or emotional sharing like that, and it's his job to get those people to express those feelings. And you can see throughout the video, I mean, it's a simple thing of Jimmy's a brat and he's staying out too late, to where it's because people care about me, and I need to change my way I'm doing things so that way my parents don't feel like I'm dead or out partying and stuff. And so that information is so vital, and it needs to be said in an atmosphere that people are willing to listen. And that's why people go to therapy, because it's an atmosphere where people are told you need to listen. And I think that's a hard part about families, and with like family stress and coping, is that we don't have an atmosphere at our homes sometimes that our kids are actually comfortable in talking with us about, Mom and Dad, I don't feel like you're yelling at me for the right reason. Maybe we should talk about it.
That's pretty good.
Mommy,
Sorry. So, one of the questions on here was anyone surprised by the findings or observations?
I was. Yeah. I really thought, that they're going to focus on Jimmy and try to fix him. Like, yeah, Jimmy, do you know how this is making everybody else feel? What can you do about it? But they didn't just look at him, they looked at everybody. And in finding that, I think it also opened up that, yes, you're doing this, but this is how it's affecting everybody else. So it became not only one person's problem, but everybody else's problem, as opposed to we need to fix him, but we need to work together as a family. And that really surprised me. I really thought, Jimmy should, but whether I realized that, we are all in this together and we're making it work, and we are not all, what is the word? We are not all innocent here. Yes, Jimmy is the one who brought us here, but we also play a role in that. That was a surprise to me.
Yeah, I think it's easy to focus on, with Jimmy, we all thought the video was probably going to focus on him more than what it ended up happening. And it's the same thing with any job that we have. So we have like the waste, that we don't ever try to fix the waste of time. We always try to fix the things that are very easy to fix. So one of the things would be, Jimmy, you have a curfew at 12. If you're not back, we're kicking you out. Where maybe that's not the waste. Maybe the waste is something else that's going on in the family that hasn't been talked about yet, that's making Jimmy stay out late so he doesn't have to maybe communicate with his family as much. So it's that broad, that we're trying to make it broader instead of trying to just focus on the one thing. And so bringing up that they didn't focus on him the whole time was actually, it was a surprise, but it was probably the best situation for getting the family to actually talk more.
Yeah, it's like throughout the whole thing, he funneled it. It was a big, broad issue, and he was like, okay, we're here because of Jimmy. And then at the very end, he ended up just breaking it down to, okay, Mom and Dad go on a date, and then you and your sister go get a soda, build that relationship. It was crazy.
That's also very surprising because I expected him to come up with like, okay, guys, we need to really. But it seems it's very simple, very very simple, and that was a really surprise to me. So I was waiting, like, okay, he's probably gonna. But it was just like, just spend time together. And I didn't think mom and dad needed to go out, but maybe mom and dad do need to go out and spend time together and just, So that was also very surprising to me how everything came down at the end, that just spend time with each other. And maybe that's what you're not doing, spending time with each other.
Okay, and then it says discuss how a treatment professional or paraprofessional might prepare to capitalize on such opportunities to introduce or reinforce the types of resiliency factors from Walsh's article.
So what can we do to prepare for, I guess, an effective session like this one in the future?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I took away from watching the video and from the thing is to not just take the first answer, to always ask follow-up questions about what's going on.
What I've taken from it, sometimes I think about how complicated therapy can be, but I think if you just really listen and see what people are saying underneath it all, you can, just being able to ask questions, being able to rephrase certain things, and it's the simple things, you can really get to the root of the question or the root of the problem. Just listening, rephrasing, connecting dots, it can work. It made it so simple and doable. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to work on for me was, my biggest takeaway was to make sure you start off right. If it wasn't for him starting off the way he did, I don't think he would have gotten as far as he did. He probably would have, I don't know, hit some roadblock and maybe wouldn't have been able to overcome that because he didn't make them as comfortable as they were in this video.
I also liked how he was able to put himself there, not too much, but also I feel like I relate with people when they're able to relate a little bit with themselves with me. How he was like, oh yeah, I have this, or I have that, or I have kids, like it made me feel like, oh, there are others out there. So, and how he was able to do it, not so overwhelmingly, but just enough for them to feel that they can connect with him. And I think that's important, that you can be able to connect. I don't know. You can connect with your patients in such a way that they feel comfortable.
I think a big thing that we've talked about a lot is just connecting as a family.
For sure, I can agree with that.
I think that's probably sometimes most of the issues, is that people aren't taking the time to actually grow as a family. They want it to be easy, where come in, sit on the couch, watch some Disney Plus, and then go to bed. But I think it's obviously families are a lot more complicated than we realize until something goes wrong.
That's true.
All right. Anybody got anything else to add about observations or anything?
I had a few things on emotional sharing and positive interaction. Just to start off with, I think something that where Jason was saying that, one thing that he did very well is just how he started the thing, and I think there was a lot of empathy in that room. There was a bit of mutual trust, and I think it came from the therapist and how he started that therapy session. He was able to ask him, who are you, what are you doing? When you share something about yourself to somebody else and that person seems interested, is sharing the little things, who are you, what do you like, where did you come from, that interest that allows me to feel like I can open up, as opposed to, hey guys, what's going on, tell me what brought you in here, as opposed to, hey, you guys, what's going on? Where are you from? That brought in the mutual trust. The family was able to share their feelings, share their frustrations, share what was going on, their sadness, whatever was, because of the way it started, that empathy, that mutual trust that was started from the beginning in that session. And I think lastly was number 9, collaborative problem solving and proactive approach. I like that he didn't share too much about what they need to do. He just said, well, maybe you need to take 30 minutes and discuss what you need to do with as a family. Maybe you need to have one-on-one. And it just maybe, it's like, hey, this is your problem. It's back on your, it's almost as if I'm giving your problem back for you to find out what works for you. How can you communicate? How do you go back? Where do you go from here? I like that, and it allows them to really work on themselves as a family. And then maybe when they come back next time, they can talk about it and maybe he can help them. But he gave them back their problem for them to work on it. I thought that was really good.
Very good point. He gave it back to them after borrowing it for like an hour.
He borrowed it for some time, huh? Yeah.
He took it apart and then he told him how to fix it. Well, he's trying to help him how to fix it. It's good. I like that.
Well, I don't think the best solutions ever come from someone else. They always come from our own listening to ourselves speaking and then being like, oh, yeah, maybe this is a better way to do this. Oh, yeah, I should have done that before. And so I think that's what he was trying to do, is to push them back into figuring it out themselves, because it's not his responsibility to tell them what to do. It's his responsibility to get them to find out what they should do.
Yeah, he did a very good job at not crossing that boundary too. Just kept it at, oh, so this is what you think, this is what you say, this is what you're gonna do. I think he did a really good job leading them in that direction for sure.
Yeah, I think that's all I have here.
Okay. Let's see. So I have a bunch of notes that are very scattered. I can put them all together, obviously. Anything? Oh, here, I'll just hold on. I'll pull it up. Okay, so I put down all the 9 things that were on here, and then just wrote little notes for them. I can revise it a little bit and then send it out to everyone tomorrow sometime. Probably not till later in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then everyone can look at it, and then if it looks good, or if you want to make revisions, you can. I'll share it like maybe as a Google Doc so we can all work on it synchronously. And that way we can all, if it looks good, then I'll turn it on Saturday. If it's not, just make your changes as you want to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's very
good.
scattered. It's just like the little phrases just so I could keep going.
No, totally understand. I do the same thing. I just have but when I put it together, I know what I'm talking about, but I need to write down at least something. So that makes sense.
That's smart. So
So yeah, if we all want to make changes on it after I submit it, I'll share it tomorrow, and then we can all make changes on Saturday, and I'll turn it in.
Okay.
I usually don't turn in my homework till like 8 or 9 o'clock. I live in Minnesota, so that's probably an hour. Are you guys both in Idaho or?
I'm in Georgia.
Oh, okay. So you're an hour ahead of me.
Yeah.
I'm Central Time.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So 8 or 9 o'clock is when I'll probably turn it in. So if you can look at it before then.
All right, and so I'm trying to figure out. So we're just turning in the summary, right, and the video link.
Yeah.
And do you do that, or do we all do all of it?
It says, please make only one submission per group, and it submits the Zoom link and also the Word document.
I think what we do is just a self-evaluation, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
we
what I was
do the self-evaluation, but I will turn in both the link and the summary once it's done.
Sounds good.
Okay.